Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 198. This chapter adapted two of the three chapters where the Naruto and Delta fight is covered in the manga. So we have the last chapter of this fight to be covered in next week's episode. I think that is definitely the best section of this fight, headed to the sort of ending, because let's be real here, the manga content for these two chapters that this episode covered were not great, and while the anime did a good job accurately adapting the manga, it probably should have made a few more changes to just make the fight flow a little bit better, because while this was hype to a certain degree because it was Naruto versus Delta, a Naruto fight, great, versus the first fight really against one of the inner Kara members, great, they overwrote it so much that it felt really kind of clunky, and all you could really get from this in terms of the way they did the pacing of the fight was just that you are writing around Naruto so much. You are being so careful to not just have Naruto stomp Delta, basically, that you've written far too many restrictions on this fight, that you've actually taken away so much of what this fight could have been. In that, look, there's so many problems, I think. One is that straight away, you do the thing you often do in the big fights, which is that the villain is immune to jutsu. That is nice the first couple of times that they did it. It's getting a little old at this point, and it makes fights just seem kind of pointless, and it makes it almost feel like the writers are going very easy on themselves. We're like, okay, let's just put this restriction in place so we don't have to draw much jutsu. And that's kind of what it felt like here, of just like, Naruto is known at this point for the big flashy jutsus, especially at the level that he's at now. We saw a glimpse of it in this fight when he did the lava shuriken thing. That was fantastic. But all that was just a move to break Delta's sort of connection to the ground where she got into the air. It wasn't an important part of the fight at all, but at least it was something interesting that happened in the fight. But it was one of two jutsu that Naruto used in the fight. Like, shadow clones. Why does Naruto not use shadow clones? It's so weird. I get Delta has the eyes in the sky situation, but still, shadow clones are still going to be somewhat useful in this fight, and it just was like weird that like Naruto didn't use them or doesn't seem to use them much anymore. And so yeah, immediately getting across the idea, Delta can absorb jutsu. That takes away a lot of the visual interest and means a lot of the fight, like 90% of the fight, is going to be taijutsu, which in the anime often looks quite good because animating taijutsu looks much better than just seeing taijutsu in the manga panels, where it can feel very just punch kicky. In the manga, like you're just wasting time, like get to the show. It feels a little bit better here in that you get to see the movement and the moves come across that bit better. But when the whole fight between two characters who you know are really, really powerful is just punch kick, along the same lines of what we've seen in other fights, it doesn't come across particularly well, especially when you have that early moment in the fight where they're like, okay, we're both going to get serious now. Naruto goes into like chakra mode, Delta decides she's going to get serious, and basically the fight resumes, and it's the exact same thing as it was with Naruto in his base form, because Naruto doesn't use any jutsu. It's just like, trust us, they're fighting faster, trust us, they're fighting stronger. Visually, stuff has changed, even though actually they're just doing the exact same things. Stuff like that becomes a little bit of a problem. And obviously, the early section of this fight is just Naruto trying to like lure Delta in. Like, he lets basically her stab him to make it seem like she has the advantage, to get her to start talking and potentially reveal information about Kara or Kawaki's connection to Kara, so we can just learn more. She immediately does figure this out. She stops talking before she reveals anything and figures out that, oh, you're in control here. Like, you're you're not worried at all that I've stabbed you straight through. And we get the reveal that, yeah, of course, Naruto can heal. So that's great and all. Naruto's kind of tactics to just get her to talk are not going to work. Surely at this point, now, we can have the second resumption of the fight, and we can get actually serious this time. And they show it again. Naruto goes like more energy into his chakra mode. Delta gets a little bit more serious. They go at each other again, and it's the same thing. It's just more taijutsu. They move around a little bit more. Delta uses more of her, body modification stuff. But eventually it just builds up to the reveal that, okay, Naruto's more serious now. She realizes she can't just like injure him by stabbing him once or twice. She's going to have to use her big weapon, which is the laser beam attack. So we get the explanation from Kawaki that the way this laser works is that if you get hit with it, it is going to basically completely destroy whatever limb it hits. And it breaks through regenerative powers. So this is actually going to be something that can hit Naruto. So we immediately create the situation. Even though, as Kawaki states, even though Boruto's worried that like Naruto's on the defensive, what are we going to do? Oh, we have to get involved. Kawaki's like, no, look at the fight, analyze it more closely. Sure, he's on the defensive, but he's controlling this fight. He, in the way he defends, is directing her where he wants to go. He's making it so that when she attacks, the attack is directed away from us. That's how in control he is. Don't be worried. He is just waiting for the right opening to deliver a jutsu. So you're saying straight away, very early on in the fight, Naruto is more powerful than Delta. And in a straight up fight, if they just go all out, Naruto is going to win. But you have to, again, create obstacles to make it so that Naruto is not just going to win this fight straight away. I understand that, but it's still frustrating to see a fight where the writing is more concerned with putting obstacles in Naruto's way than actually just writing like a good fight, which is ultimately, I think, what we want out of this. Now, of course, we get good moments, like we're building up to it sort of here. Naruto dodges a bunch of these laser attacks, and Delta realizes, like, okay, unless she does something that's a major distraction, she's not going to be able to hit him, he's just too quick. So she decides, okay, I'm going to target the kids who are on the outskirts of the battle. So she goes in, basically kind of knocks out Boruto, grabs Himawari, who's of course the weakest member. She's not going to be able to dodge herself. And so this is where we get the kind of Boruto interference in the fight. So this is a point where they made sort of changes that were not present in the manga, which is, yes, Boruto always does the Vanishing Rasengan and Delta absorbs it. The difference is that he does that in the manga earlier than he does it here. When he does it in the manga, it's meant to be more of a mistake from Boruto. It's meant to be him sort of going against what Kawaki said and like, don't interfere. Naruto doesn't need you to interfere on his behalf. And it's like, ooh, Boruto, you've made a tactical error. You have suddenly brought us into this fight. And it makes it seem like much more of a big Boruto mistake. Whereas in the anime, the way they did it was that, it makes much more sense. It's more reasonable for Boruto to attack Delta when Himawari is grabbed because Naruto said, Boruto protect Himawari. So he's not disobeying any orders here. Sure, him attacking Delta isn't the best thing to do, but in his mind, he feels the Vanishing Rasengan, which worked against Momoshiki, is going to work against her, but they're sort of unaware that the drone is in the sky, giving her sort of an extra set of eyes. So it makes it less of a major mistake on Boruto's behalf. And I don't really mind that change too much because, sure, character-wise, if you think Boruto making the mistake in the manga was a big moment, I'm sure you really care about the mistake. I never really felt that like there was meant to be that much of a kind of growth for Boruto from this fight outside of just him realizing how far away he is from the top level, basically. That when is Boruto going to be able to have a fight like the fight that Naruto is having? It's going to be a while yet, obviously. So that was sort of my main takeaway from Boruto's side of things. But anyway, so we end up with this situation. This is the big moment. Delta has Himawari. She can injure her if she wants, but she is trying to get the advantage on Naruto. So she throws Himawari into the air and prepares to fire the laser at her. So Naruto, who's kind of on the other side of the battlefield, launches himself to try and get in between Himawari and the laser, which he does, but he sort of is paused there in front of Himawari to block against the attack. So he's going to get hit. He's going to die to save Himawari. But Kawaki jumps in the way in front of those two and blocks it with his sort of a ninja tool kind of arm. So Kawaki loses his arm to block the attack, and it's this big character moment for Kawaki. All of the build-up that we've had over the last couple of episodes in the house, just like Uzumaki family time, has built to this. Him slowly becoming more and more comfortable, slowly becoming more and more, wanting more and more to make things up to Himawari with the vase, make things up to Boruto, accept Naruto as a father figure. And that's what he's doing here. He also has sort of in a way come to, view Himawari as the little sister of the family as well. He's protecting a father figure he actually cares about. This is a big moment from a character who, we've seen deep down does care about people, but has been broken down to the point where he almost doesn't care about people. But here he is putting himself on the line for others, and it's a huge moment where he proves himself to Naruto, to Himawari, to Boruto especially, and the little moment of, this makes up for the vase, doesn't it, Boruto? And Boruto is just so moved and shocked by this that he's just like, you idiot, that doesn't matter at this point in time. It's like, are you okay? So their friendship is fully solidified at this point because of that act. That's the star moment from this episode. It's a part of the fight in that this situation is engineered by the fight, but it's not directly about Naruto and Delta. And I think that's kind of what's interesting. They write that moment so well, but the fight deep down is sort of not particularly well written. Now, this obviously then creates the situation as we go into the next episode where Delta has sort of broken the code of conduct for a fight like this. It's meant to be one-on-one. You don't involve the kids who haven't really got themselves involved in the battle up to now. Delta has done that. Naruto is going to be mad. Delta's also mad because Kawaki completely went against her expectations, and she's getting frustrated that this fight is lasting so long. Because I guess, as was explained, she can't use that laser attack that much, and it almost, seemed to be the case, was that her last laser. And so, she's frustrated that she's been pushed this far, and we see that she's angry, but the bigger point is, we haven't really seen Naruto fully react to this yet, so the preview obviously gets across that finally Naruto is actually going to get properly serious. Now, the big problem, of course, with the fight is, why has it taken effectively 3 or 4 moments of the fight, sections of the fight, slowly building Naruto up to the point where he's finally going to sort of go at Delta properly and move to actively end and win the fight rather than kind of dragging it on. Yes, reasons were presented for many of these stages of the fight happening in the way that they did, but, do you necessarily view these reasons as being great? That's where the problems come in with this fight. And this is where you have to realize, to use a little bit of sort of wrestling terminology, because ultimately that's the way that these are. They are booking these characters to be strong or not strong in specific fights. The fight you kind of have to view as a wrestling match, as a build-up to it. The fight is the pay-per-view. Is this going to be the fight that, the match that actually does well? The problem here is that this is sort of, the way they've done this fight is the equivalent of creating a fight with rules like, oh yeah, the wrestlers, they're not allowed to use their finisher or signature moves. So the moves that you care about that specific character using, they can't use them anymore. And there's a ton of distraction on the outside, and there's other, specific rules in play, like this character is not going to get serious until this specific thing happens. And so there's only minor storytelling within the fight, but all of this writing to create like a restriction on the fight. That's where the problems of this episode like arise from. Like I said, it's not that inherently minute to minute what they're doing is just terrible. It's just sort of some poor decision making that made the fight overall not as interesting as it could be, in the sense of, is this fight as good as, like, even say the Garo fight, which was a pretty like non-event of a fight in my mind, but they obviously went all out to show Kawaki fighting for the first time. That was fantastic, because they made it just a simple, here's Kawaki and what he's like when he goes all out. Similarly, like the Ao fight, they made interesting because it was this battle of sort of ninja tools versus, clever use of ninja tools plus ninjutsu, and so on. Like we've had moments where they've made big fights really hit and deliver. My impression is that the way that this was done in terms of like, was this the super high quality animation episode that we maybe expected? No. And I get the impression that they are not at all treating this fight in that way. I think this is them sort of realizing that this fight wasn't received like super, super well. I don't think it was like hated, but it was not one of the most praised fights from Naruto. So they from Boruto. So they realized like, okay, let's hold off. We'll give this sort of like above average animation, but not going all out. We'll save that up for like the next fight or the fight after that, which are more impactful in terms of getting into the real like meat of the story coming up pretty soon, which is happening. That sort of stuff. So I'm excited for next week because finally we'll get to see Naruto actually go for it. That was definitely the best part of the upcoming chapter and so on. So I'm excited to finally just see it just happen in that way. Again, is it the strongest ending to a fight I've ever seen? No, but it's better just because it's simple. They take a simple approach in the next time out, and that's fine. I don't know if they'll be able to get a full episode out of the fight, so I'm guessing we'll get like next chapter plus some of the chapter afterwards, or they'll do the fight up to the end, and then they'll cut back to Code and the mission that Code has been given in the last episode, I think, to find Boro, and we'll go into that, because it looks like I think we are going to get a little bit of an arc about Code finding Boro to set up Boro, who's going to be the next kind of character in the spotlight, I guess. So, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about this chapter, this episode. Is that, there were some good moments. The Kawaki moment was fantastic. The moment earlier on in the fight where Naruto basically said that he is fighting so hard, not just for his own kids, Boruto and Himawari, he's including Kawaki in that too. The look over to Kawaki realizing that Naruto is including him in the people that he's directly protecting, was nice. But again, it was the Kawaki moments and not really anything specifically to do with Naruto versus Delta that I think were the strong moments of this fight. And again, just to make it perfectly clear, I didn't hate this fight, but it's definitely one of the more flawed fights I think we've had in Boruto, just because Naruto should be this rather, easy character to write, but you kind of do have to write around him to some degree. Now, this is a case where maybe if this fight was Sasuke versus Delta, I think it would have been more interesting choreography-wise, but you might have lost some of the character moments in it just because Sasuke's skill set might have made for a better looking fight. But, we'll see how they execute the next episode. So, they're my thoughts on this episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were, but that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.